Welcome to Coleraine, the county of Coleraine, the borough of Coleraine. Now, Coleraine is a county. Well, you like it or not. And it's been a county this last 500 years. Just because it's called after Lord Coleraine doesn't make it not a county. And the Act of Parliament not to make it a county has never been passed. So Coleraine is still legally a county. Why was Coleraine a county? It was made by the Irish Parliament in Dublin around 1580, 1570, by royal charter, as all counties were made. So it was Antrim, Coleraine, Down and Londonderry. You don't like that? That's tough. That's just the truth. There's 8 counties in Ulster. That's 7 men. And Donegal would have been 2 counties then, which hasn't changed by royal charter. It takes an Act of Parliament to turn this county Coleraine into an area, for want of a better word. Now, I'm going to explain parliamentarianism to you. Come around here. Right. Get a couple of heavenly beings here. Quick. Boom. Boom. That's me. I'm not taking no shit from nobody, mate. You want the truth? I'll tell you the truth. This is a county. This is older than Londonderry, the county of Coleraine. It was made by the Catholics. That might be the contention in it. Right. Okay. Why? It was a tax haven, a take haven. So people didn't have to pay take. Now, the Scotch planters didn't make it a county. Irish Parliament did. Just because it was called after Lord Coleraine, it's not Lord Coleraine's fault, and it's not anybody's fault. But the government, you're going to have to cut this up a bit now. You're going too hard here. Look, boom, 2 heavenly beings, boom. That's the royal charter covering Coleraine. Right. Why was it never recognised as a county? Was probably hard to say. The difficulty in it was not it is a county, as nobody knew it was a county. It's the ambiguous ambiguity in Northern Ireland history at times. And it's to nobody's advantage, by the way, except the people of Coleraine. Why? I'm going to explain something. Londonderry joined with Strabane to make a super council, didn't it? Well, take it from me, I hope Strabane has plenty of money to pay all them retirement funds for Londonderry mayors and Londonderry this and Londonderry that. Know what I mean? That doesn't make sense to anybody except 2 nationalist councils getting together and deciding to be one nationalist council. That's illegal. Now, I'm a parliamentarian, and I'll explain what a parliamentarian is. Now, if I go to meet a bureaucrat who's in governance, and that means a bureaucrat that's in charge of a department, I table the questions on the agenda to the next time I see him, and then he brings back me answers. Now, to beat that, I've watched them do it on TV time and time again, and it's an illegal move. They come out with talk like, how many knives and forks are in the Galvin Hospital? The answer to that from a bureaucrat, now being very, very diplomatic, is how the fuck should I know? Do I go and see and get the letter for that and bring you back the proposed answer? If you don't ask the question, they won't give you answers. Now, that is governance since time memorial. Since Socrates, Plato and Aristotle's time, that's governance. That means it doesn't matter who's in power, king, queen, or whoever. That's governance. That is the power they're trying to take away from Northern Ireland. By using a secretariat that's not responsible to the people, for the people, at any time to do anything about the people, isn't my fault. Therefore, there can't be governance. That's why it's bits and pieces and raggy-taggy stuff, as I call it. Why? Because they've got nothing else. Now you put a flag up. You don't put it up. You don't put it up for anybody's doing but your own. Couple of heavenly beings. Bum. There it goes that way. Bum bum. Why? Coleraine belongs in Coleraine. Now probably it's difficult to say, but in truth, the British government probably at no stage made the counties. Who made the counties were the chieftains. Now I'll explain why. They didn't like paying the tag. And when they paid the tag, they tried to get off as much of it as they could to the chieftain, who then paid the High King. That ended the High King's reign, was these counties. Why? There were 4 kings, Ulster, Leinster, Munster and Connacht. And there was a High King. Tag was the way they paid him from the chieftains. Coleraine did away with that. And the other counties. Why they made County Coleraine ambiguous is beyond me. Because it's done nobody any harm. Now, by rights there should be an MLA dealing with that, but there never was. Why? Because Coleraine County has not changed. It's like that rubbish here, look. Boom, there it is there, straight in the hill. That's where it's away. Straight on the pitch. Means now they bring the pitch in here and follow. That's the truth. So, why do people are always trying to, for want of a better word, water down the truth? Responsibility is responsibility. Government where clarity was another one. Absolute crap. Brookborough would have told you that. Why? Because he would have asked the questions. They wouldn't have expected the answers there and then. But the next time he met, if them questions weren't tabled, then he wouldn't have got the answers. And would have been Brookborough's fault, because it would have been bad governance. Do you understand now? So the power struggle isn't between the people of Ulster so much as bad governance, a secretariat that doesn't belong. For these reasons, and elected representatives that I wouldn't put in front of a fucking doggy bag. Never mind Paddy Storman. They're about as responsible as a pig in shit. And that's the truth. Yeah, love that. That's what we feel about them. Why? Responsibility for what people do is not my fault. Throw that stuff into hell. And that's where it goes. Straight on the pitch. Who's to blame for that? Well, I know who isn't. Me. Know what I mean? And any mental games they ever played me, or any tortures they try to use, are being given back to them. By the scruff of the neck and throw them in. That's the answer. You don't want to know what's going on in hell. Because I don't. Why? Because it's the truth. It's not their truth. It's their truth. Ulster is Ulster. End of story. And Coleraine, county, borough and city is still a county, and there's no act of parliament through ever to change that. Who's to blame? Should be the question. Now, was it the famous, want of a better word, in the 17th, 18th century, 2 major families here, Antrim and Down. But Coleraine was the triangle. Coleraine was the bastion. to some extent. Portrush and Port Stewart. And yet they turn their back on them. You see, they don't like history that's not their history. But it's Ulster's history. That's the heritage that they're trying to steal. It's not my heritage. It's your heritage, it's everybody's heritage. But they can't steal it. But they keep trying. It's like sending a rig of leprechauns over to fucking Washington. They go over every year and parade themselves like monkeys. That's not my fault. Why? Because Ulster's not like that. Ulster's all about loyalism. And what are we loyal to? Are the UDA's answer pro Seba Quartus? Or separated to Ulster? The UVF answer, Ulster will fight and Ulster will be right. But Ulster needs might to do that. It doesn't need stories. That's the truth. They're heavenly beings, so boom, that's another load of shite away. Into hell. They don't care. And that's the truth. I didn't understand why people ask so many questions. That's the point. About questions they shouldn't be asking about. As an Ulster saying that nobody uses. It's simply a parliamentary saying as, here, I've tabled these questions. I know I'm not getting an answer this time. When I meet you again, you'll have those answers. That's parliamentarianism at its best. Good governance. That's what Ulster lost. Know what I mean? You go around here and they don't know what you're talking about. Somebody's getting more money in Derry than they are in fucking Coleraine and places like that. The information shared is minimal. And it's all rubbish. It's about people making money out of heritage that's not theirs. That's not happening. End of story. That's what Ulster's about.
Straight to listener.
Now we're going up to Dunluce Castle. As you can see, the heavenly beings are here. See them, those sheets? Do you know what they are? They're orders from heaven. You see that tabernacle crack where Muslims are attacking Christians? Remember what they tell you? There's 200 Muslims every year going over to fight in Syria. Everybody knows there's a training camp in England. Why? They got the IRA model to see that. The UDA model to see that. You can't put 200 people away, you know what I mean? And immigration is only alright if you, and truthfully, only alright if there's room for it. And I'll explain what I mean. First, you look after your own, but they haven't been looking after their own. Why? Because there's that many immigrants in this country. 5 million immigrants illegally in the United Kingdom. That's more's on the fucking job list. And why do they keep it like that? Now this sounds socialist, it's not, it's unionist. Take them 5 million away and the wages will go up to the roof. The prices of houses will go up. The prices of everything will go up. The standard of living will go up. Why keep it down? Now I've nothing against immigration. My argument in it is first put your own house in order before you decide to put somebody else's. Now we're going to do a wee bit in the international scene, for want of a better word. I don't like Jews. I'm the Dannon. They got the best deals in fucking history and they still fucked up. Know what I mean? When the Dannon took them out of fucking Israel and into that, hold on, put that pharaoh. There's a pharaoh there. Right. Boom, there you are. It goes like that there, right. When they took them and put them on Egypt, the Dannon would have happily crucified every one of them upside down. Why? I'll explain. They went and brokered a deal with a pharaoh. They gave the pharaoh all he wanted. They had the best jobs ever in Egypt. That's where the Freemasons came from, to protect the other Freemasons' jobs, stonemasons' jobs. That's where the Freemasons come from, Egypt. And what started them was a promise from the Danann, not a promise from anybody else. It was brokered in heaven, not in Buncranamate, or not in Stormont. That's the way. That's the truth. Of course we're anti-Semitic. Know what I mean? I can't stand them. The same way I can't stand religious people as they're liars. They're liars because any religion that claims something it's not, they have that type of power. It's the truth. They haven't got it. Give it a wee blow there, look at that. Plus it's starting to simmer. It's more like a pot. See that? You got it in the camera. Well, we're in Coleraine Centre in a car park. It wasn't a car park 200 years ago, 300 years ago. This would have been a built-up Georgian area. What are we here for? Basically, Coleraine is a county. Well, anybody likes it or not. County Coleraine and city is the law. The law that's never been broken is Coleraine itself. An act of parliament would have to change this into a town again and not a borough in a city. So why was it never recognised as one? In all sincere honesty, I would say this place was to some extent forgotten. Alright, hold on, couple of clouds, bump, me throat, bump. What's it all about under there? You just bump, then I hang on to there, bump, then I hang on to there either. And that's how I do it. What happened? People would call that miracles. That's the Danann. What are we? Why do we exist? Where's all this exist? Who's it for? Is it for Ulster? Or is it for somebody else? No, turn that right. Did I get this anti-immigration thing in? Now about immigration. Two things I only agreed with Margaret Thatcher ever saying. One, she wasn't for turning because I thought she'd destroy herself. And two, we look after her own. Tribalism. That's all there is. The city of Coleraine was not made by Scotch planters. It's a mistake people make. There was a city here long before that. Ignored as usual. Whose heritage are they trying to steal? Mine? Doubtful. Yours, probably. What are they going to do with it? Make great speeches up. There's too much ambiguity in what people do, for me. What's it all about? A Georgian, a way of life. That's what it's about. The Ulster way of life. Does it exist? Aye. But is it liked? No. It's not liked by people that don't know it. Why? Because they're not part of it. When you're trying to look into somebody what somebody else has, the grass is always greener in somebody else's field. But it never is. Why is that? Is it greed or excitement at seeing something you want? I don't know. Ulster is Ulster. And there'll never be a united Ireland. Why? Who'd want one? Honest. Look at the good people of Strabane. They're paying all them retirement funds for all them ex-mayors of Derry now. And their rates are going up. That's got to be the biggest con Ulster ever had. things that don't make sense. Nonsense. Like that happens here. Like this is a county. This is a city and a county. And yet it's not recognised as one, and yet on the statute books it is. The Act of Parliament was never passed to make it anything else but what it is. See, it takes an act of Parliament, they take that away. There was no such act. Who's to blame? As everybody else that refuses to recognise their own heritage. That's where Orangeism comes under, and Freemasonry. True heritage is knowing the truth, but only acting on the truth when it is of a profit to yourselves and to nobody else. That's where tribalism comes in. That has always been the truth. So, what Ulster is Ulster. There's 7 counties in Ulster, and if Donegal was part of Ulster, there'd be 8. Hard to take, because people beat people over the head and say, no, you go to somebody that doesn't know the truth, and you say there's 7 counties in Ulster. They say, yeah, that's right, and that's including Donegal. In truth, it's not. That's the truth. Why? This information leads to vagueness, confusion, and frustration, bordering over an anger. Is in all truth the truth. Hide the heritage and you hide yourself. It's never the truth. Hide the heritage and you may have to explain why you did that. Is always the truth. You know, me throw boom, straight there, a couple of me throw there, boom. And that's the reality of my existence. I work for God, mate. I don't work for anybody else. You know what I mean? What? Say it.
Packaged foods.
Can you say that again?
Packaged foods and all that stuff.
I can't hear you.
Packaged foods.
Packaged foods. Well, like, but discussion of that's simple. Is the flavour in packaged food poisonous? Well, anybody that drinks pink gin will tell you yes. Anybody that, what do you call it? But whose fault is that? That's government information that's not being shared. Why? Because of the honest dislike of real protocol in government and parliamentarianism. That's the truth. Why? Without protocol, you can get away with anything. Government and clarity without responsibility is suicide waiting to happen. Why? Because you don't know where you stand, and if you don't know where you stand, they can push anything through. That's the truth. So I don't really know who's right or who's wrong and something like that. Why? Because I would have to go to Parliament to find out. And if you go to Parliament, you go there, you table your agenda, your questions, and then you come back the next time to get the answers. Any parliamentarian will tell you that. That is the way all good governments are run. The battle between politicians and governance isn't my battle. It's that Karl Marx says religion is the opium of the working classes. It's not. It's a desire for power. That's what all this boils down to. And it shouldn't in Coleraine. And it shouldn't anywhere else. Basically, it's people enjoying putting spanners in other people's work. And when the spanner lands at their front door, as it always does, then it's always somebody else's fault. That's the reality of this country, of Ulster. But it shouldn't be. And the reason for that is the Secretariat. They wouldn't know they're not answerable in parliamentarian terms. Therefore, they're not part of any government. They can't be. It's illegal. Totally illegal. Why? Simple. If they're not part of the government and yet can dictate to the government, then they're not parliamentary, so they're not part of governance, so they have to be part of the elected government. That's what's happening. They're doing what they want. They're not getting away with it. That's the truth. I'll be silent at that and thank you. Okay? Good.